You're listening to Boomers Today with your host, Frank Sampson.
Well, welcome to Boomers Today. I'm your host, Frank Sampson, and of course, each week we bring you important and useful information on issues facing baby boomers, their parents, and other loved ones. And I just can't thank all of you enough for all of your support. Our listeners are growing literally every day, and it's because of all of you sharing with your friends and family links to our podcast that appears on many stations. Of course, we have our own app, Boomers Today. You could just search, if you have an iPhone or Android phone, just search Boomers Today, and you could be kept up to date on all of our podcasts. Certainly, you could also listen to them on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, pardon me, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Stitcher, all of them. So again, I just really want to thank you for that. And this show has been going on for several years now, and practically every week. And it's because we have wonderful guests that are provide a great education to all of us, including myself. And today is not going to be any different. We have with us Lisa Gates. Lisa has worked within the senior living industry for over 8 years. She has been an administrator of an adult day health program and worked in numerous senior living communities, including independent living, assisted living, and memory care. She also has 40 years of marketing experience and 10 years of specialization in events and promotions. In 2019, she opened a nonprofit organization called Metamorphosis 3, serving seniors and caregivers and offering intergenerational programs. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us on Boomers Today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you. So, Metamorphosis 3. I'd love to hear more, about that, how you kind of got involved in the industry and the catalyst of starting Metamorphosis 3, and also how you kind of came up with that name. So it's kind of a loaded 3 questions here, but I'll let you give it a go.
It is a loaded 3 questions. First of all, I got involved with senior living. Prior to that, I was involved very heavily with real estate development marketing. And I don't need to elaborate that we had a big real estate boom, and my career dipped during that time. And I was introduced to senior living through something I would have never imagined. I applied for a volunteer coordinator job, and the person called and said, I think you would be just dynamite to spearhead our Alzheimer's and adult day health program here at Senior Friendship Center. And I was flabbergasted. I didn't have any prior experience. So I went for the interviews and I was offered the job, and I decided that I would go ahead and give that a shot. It was probably time for me to do my own metamorphosis. So I did go ahead and accept the administrator position for Senior Friendship Center. And I did work with the seniors there for about 2 years. I absolutely loved it. I found that I had a real passion for helping families that had loved ones with Alzheimer's and dementia, and actually helped transition them when they needed more residential permanent placing. And that is when I got involved with Brookdale Senior Living, where I became a sales manager for a memory care, very small memory care in Fort Myers. And then I kept their building full on a continual basis, and I was promoted to a sales specialist. And then I became a business development director for Brookdale.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And then, so what was that catalyst of starting your nonprofit Metamorphosis 3?
The catalyst for that was my mother had passed about 6 months prior, and I knew that my father was going to be transitioning in his own journey with senior living, and I wanted to be able to have the flexibility to help him throughout that journey. And I felt the way to do that was to, again, do another metamorphosis with my own life. And I decided that opening a nonprofit, continuing my passion for seniors and helping families would be a great thing to do at that particular juncture.
Great. And how'd you come up with the name?
The name Metamorphosis is all about a butterfly. And the reason that name came is there were several things that happened throughout my life that all pointed back to that metamorphosis and that butterfly. And the first one was, of course, when my mother passed. I saw many, many butterflies in my lanai, and I just always thought of her when I saw a butterfly. And I also started a journey with a lifelong business and personal partner, and I met him, and he owns a 44-foot catamaran named the Butterfly. So
Ah,
it simultaneously all came together.
great. And Metamorphosis 3. I'm just curious. I always am interested how people come up with the names. People ask me all the time how to come up with the name of my organization. But Metamorphosis 3, tell us about that. Why the number 3?
The number 3, we wanted to go through the various stages of a metamorphosis. I now find there's 4, but really and truly, we wanted to have our nonprofit focus on 3 different aspects of the organization. And of course, the first one is seniors. Second is caregivers. My mother did pass of an acute kidney disease. And the third part is youth. My parents are big lovers of supporting youth-oriented organizations. We promote the youth part of our organization through intergenerational activities.
Got it. Got it. Great. That's wonderful. Wonderful. So give us some examples of the types of activities that you do with caregivers, with the seniors. Talk to us a little bit more about that.
Well, because of COVID, we have been focusing on our intergenerational programming, and basically because we were not allowed in senior living communities, and we also volunteered our time with Senior Friendship Center, which is a local organization that helps seniors. We delivered meals through holiday times. We also worked jointly with the YMCA this last year, and we produced some luminaries with homemade cards from the youth. And then we delivered those to senior living communities the day before Christmas so that they could be shared with those seniors that were alone during the holidays. During Valentine's Day, did the same thing. We did candy boxes and flowers and went and delivered those to our area senior living communities. Now, most recently, since we are starting to open back up and we're starting to do more in-person meetings, I've started a coalition here in Northport called the Caregiver Connection Coalition. And that's comprised of area professionals and area nonprofits to collaborate on programs that will be geared toward caregivers.
Wonderful. That's great. So do you feel that your organization has filled a void that just nobody was servicing, or were other organizations servicing similar to what you were doing, maybe in a different way? How did you decide to select the various services that you offer?
I selected the services based on my own personal experience. While working in senior living communities, I noticed a lot of seniors were still isolated. I know they do a great job of providing activities, but you have a lot of independent seniors and they may only get out once a week on a bus or get out into nature. So I wanted to be able to offer something to those communities that wanted to offer more for their seniors, especially because a lot of communities are catering to independent, assisted living, and memory care all simultaneously. And you've got one activity director doing all 3. That's not the case in all communities, but it is it is the case in many. So I wanted to be able to provide that service and partner with those communities so we could provide that senior with even more options to get out.
And just so our listeners understand, when you're talking about communities, these are mainly assisted living and memory care locations, licensed locations. You happen to be based in Florida. So, in the state of Florida. So you're actually, that's where most of your services are being performed at the those actual locations.
They are, but we're willing to go anywhere that a community feels the need for that coordination aspect. I
Okay.
also do want to emphasize that we do a lot with independent living communities
Right.
because
That's
you
what,
have a
yeah.
lot, yeah, you have a
Correct.
lot of
Correct.
independent people that are in a community that are used to traveling or used to doing things, and they don't have the same choices that they once had.
And I would also think that I know in Florida, and this is the case in many states, not all, but many states around the country, that there are smaller, I like to call them residential care homes. They're literally houses that are taking care of maybe a handful or more of residents. So do you work with those as well?
We'll work with anyone that feels that our services will be of need. So we don't discriminate on what those services could offer. We just work in tandem with the community that has the need and wants that additional help.
Got it. Got it. Okay, great, great. So maybe you could give us, well, I'll tell you what, we're going to take a real quick break. All right. I promise, no more than about 30 seconds just to recognize our sponsor. We need to do that. And maybe when we come back, you could talk to us about just some examples, real life examples of how you've helped seniors and caregivers and their families, and maybe brought some sunshine, to them and maybe difficult situations. So I'll let you think about that, and we'll come back and talk about that. Sound good?
Perfect.
Great, great. So uh, my question to all of you is, do you know anybody who may be concerned about an adult driver? Many of us do know people, and I wanted to make you aware that Beyond Driving with Dignity is a facilitated self-assessment program for older drivers. The program has been designed to serve as a vital tool to facilitate older drivers and their families as they make appropriate decisions regarding the future of one's safe driving career. If the individual is a safe driver, an advisor will provide him or her with strategies on how to remain a safe driver as they progress through the aging process. If driving retirement is the appropriate decision, then the individual and their family are offered possible alternatives, resources, and a specific plan to ensure a smooth and successful transition from the driver's seat to the passenger seat. So to learn more, you can go to www.beyonddrivingwithdignity.com. Again, that's www.beyonddrivingwithdignity.com. Or you could call directly at 877-907-8841 to connect with an advisor in your area. Great. We're back with Lisa Gates. Lisa has been in the senior living industry for quite a while, and she also started a nonprofit organization called Metamorphosis 3. So Lisa, as I said, as I said just prior to our quick break there, uh, maybe we'll help people to understand more of your services, to give some examples of families that you've helped, or the individuals, the caregivers, just some examples of the types of things you do on a day-to-day basis.
Great. One of the things that really comes to the forefront of my mind is helping families during a time that they might be in crisis. I was recently called upon for a family of an organization that I belong to, and they knew I had this experience and they knew about my nonprofit. And this particular individual had a family member that was hit on a bicycle and was in the hospital, and they were looking at what their options were moving forward. So I personally went to the home of the family, that experienced this and spent about an hour and a half going through their options, talking about different resources, things that could help them. And unfortunately, that individual did end up passing. But that was probably one of the things that comes to my mind as being very pivotal in what we really do. We don't charge for our services. We just go and we serve as a resource. Again, I was at a function recently. I had a table and someone came up to me, and her husband had Lewy body dementia and just wanted to have someone to talk to. So I just handed my card and gave her some preliminary information and just serve as a resource for when that time comes. Again, another chamber function. Actually, it was somebody pretty prominent in our community came and asked again what we do and what our mission is. And she is going through the journey of being a caregiver and had some questions about her mother. What are next steps? What do I look for when I have to start thinking about either in-home care or placement services? So, again, there was an opportunity for me to say, when that time comes, here is my card, and I'll be willing to help you navigate that journey. So those are the most prominent activities that
Great.
I think of.
Great. So, one thing maybe we should talk a little bit more about is that you made a decision to start Metamorphosis 3 as a nonprofit.
Mhm.
And you just had mentioned that your services, you're not actually charging for, so you get donations to help the organization provide these types of services. So what went into your decision to make it a nonprofit? And maybe share with people how they could learn how to help your organization and maybe even donate to it.
We decided to do a nonprofit basically because of the mission of what a nonprofit is. I will be very frank,
Yeah.
and tell
Okay.
you that I have learned a lot since we initially made that decision. We have decided to be a very small nonprofit. Our profit margin will always be Our profit margin will never exceed $50,000 due to IRS reporting. And we are a volunteer-based driven organization. Very important to mention. So none of our proceeds will go toward staffing, salaries, anything like that. This will remain a nonprofit that simply serves our mission. We then decided to take a portion of our programming and take that into a profit-making LLC. And when we do get large enough to be able to donate back to our own nonprofit, we will be helping to fund our own mission. Anyone that wants to donate can donate on our website. We do receive personal donations. We do drives on occasion. But again, our goal is really to serve in collaboration with other nonprofits. And our goal also is not to exceed that $50,000 per year. That's an annual basis. And again, remain on a smaller level and providing services to other nonprofits that need that additional support.
And you mentioned the website. Why don't you tell people exactly the website and how they could reach out to you?
Sure. The website is www.metamorphosis-3.com.
Great. And if your information is on the website, if they want to contact you directly, correct?
Absolutely. And we're glad to work with anybody, regardless of their geographic region, that has an interest in using our programming and services.
Actually, you were reading my mind right there. I was going to ask about that. So, though you started, the organization in Florida, you're just, if I understand, just outside of Fort Myers, right? Not too far.
Yes, we're located in Northport, Florida, and that's in between Sarasota, Port Charlotte, and just about 45 minutes from Fort Myers.
Gotcha. So somebody listening to this in other parts of the country or even other parts of Florida that say, God, I'd love to get involved with this organization. All right. What should they do? And are you open to setting up in other areas as well, as long as you have the people there to handle it?
We are open to go anywhere. And I think the one thing that the past 2 years have taught us is that there are no boundaries with internet access and Zoom and all kinds of things. We found that boundaries are, you can really do business from anywhere as long as you have that internet capability. So absolutely, we are willing to work with anyone regardless of region. They can reach me. They can reach me on my cell phone at 239-810-1241, or they can email me at lisa@metamorphosis-3.com.
Okay, great, great. So you've been in the industry for a bit. You've provide some wonderful services. Uh, what do you think is our biggest challenge for caregivers, family caregivers, I'm talking about, and their loved ones moving forward? What are some of the biggest challenges you see?
The biggest challenge is for caregivers to take time for themselves, to actually take the time to take care of themselves, carve out time that they do things without the person they're taking care of so that they can better provide the services for the ones they love. That's the biggest challenge for caregivers.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't realize, and I'm sure you know this, that it happens quite often that the caregiver, the family caregiver, is taking care of their loved one. There's so much stress on them that sometimes they get pretty ill and actually many times pass on before the person that they're taking care of. I'm sure you've seen that.
I have, and that's why I just re-emphasize that it's so important to take the time to get away from the situation that you're in. And that's one of the things that we are trying to provide is activities so that they do take that time. We're even looking at providing respite care. So there's not an excuse why they can't get away, that we would be providing the respite care so that they could join some activities that are dedicated to helping them.
So would you say that they're more daytime activities to give someone a break, or are you talking about someone who decides they want to go on vacation, a caregiver, and take a week off that you could help then, or are you talking more the day-to-day activities?
We're looking at both. Our coalition, one of the resources and professionals that I have involved is our hospice program locally. And hospice doesn't mean your end of life. Hospice has some respite opportunities. So we're working with them on providing those activities. There's other foundations that provide respite. And in answer to your question, initially that will be for day activities. Obviously we start small first, and then that would be also introduced for overnight, and we will be providing both.
So somebody who has been diagnosed with some form of dementia like Alzheimer's, and I'm sure it kind of depends at the level they're at, but let's just say they're at mid stage. Okay. Give us an example, some examples of the types of activities you would provide to them that maybe a family caregiver was spending time with them and now they need a break. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, or whatever the case may be, you're going to be working with that individual. Give us an example of some of the things that you'd be doing with them. And again, I know it depends on the person, but just kind of give us a general idea.
Well, I do want to preference that we would be working with the caregiver. The actual individual, we would let that be with the community and let them plan the activities that they deem appropriate for that individual. The caregiver, one of the things we're working on right now as we speak is using our local parks and doing some yoga, beach yoga, doing a magical mystery walk on our nature trails, doing some resource education. Those are some things that our coalition right now is planning for the early part of 2022 in our local market. And again, that's utilizing the outdoors, which provides serenity. A lot of people don't know what our national parks have to, and our state parks have to offer. It gets them outside, it gets them an opportunity to literally breathe, experience some meditation through yoga, and actually get away from the situation that they are in.
Great, great. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So, unfortunately, we're kind of running out of time. We got another minute here, so I'm just going to give you the opportunity to any words of wisdom that you could give a family member who is confronted, has just been advised, or they may have known it, but they've been advised maybe by somebody in the medical profession that their loved one has been diagnosed with some sort of dementia, and they know they got a challenging ride ahead of them. And any words of wisdom for them?
Absolutely. Reach out now and don't wait till you're in crisis, because that's when things will escalate. So start your research, start your connections, start reaching out to people you trust, and don't put that off. Start immediately and start your journey as quickly as you can.
Lisa Gates, thank you so much for joining us on Boomers Today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I want to thank everybody for joining us today on Boomers Today. And please be safe out there. And we'll talk to everybody next week.
You've been listening to Boomers Today with Frank Sampson. To learn more about today's show, visit boomerstodayradio.com and join us next time for another edition of Boomers Today.